Greetings and welcome to MentorMe Memorable Moments. I am your host, Tracy Everette Duncan. And you're probably missing someone beside me. That is my co-host, William Craig III. He is taking this program off, so you're stuck with me. But we're going to have a great program tonight. This is our financial health segment, and I do have a couple of guests that I want to introduce you to. But first, let me say welcome to 150 nations and all 50 states to Listen Vision Live Studios at WLVS Radio. And you're probably viewing us through www.listenvisionlive.com or through my website, mentorme411.com. Welcome again to financial health. We're going to be talking in the second segment about being broke. Now, you've seen our sizzle reel. It always appears just before our program for this year. And in that, I say broke has nothing to do with money. And I've had a couple of people ask me about, well, what do you mean, Tracy, broke has nothing to do with money? I thought broke was all about money. No, it's not. I'm going to break it down for you tonight and just give you enough information. There is a lot, but I'm just going to cover a few things as it pertains to women in poverty in the 21st century. But first, let me introduce our first segment. I have my guest on call from North Carolina, Miss Carrie and Reverend Mary. Are you there?
Yes, we are here.
Well, welcome to Mentor Me Memorable Moments. We're going to go ahead and start off our segment with you. And I'd like you to go ahead and introduce yourself. Let's start with Miss Carrie first.
Okay, I'm Carrie P.E., and I am the organizer and CEO of Gladys House. Gladys House is a 501c3 nonprofit that exists to provide transitional housing for homeless women 18 to 26 living in the Charlotte metro area. And these are women who either do not have children or they are not the custodial parents of the children. And we've been in existence since 2012, but we've only been actually serving the women since 2013.
Wonderful. And Reverend Mary Higgs, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, my name is Reverend Mary Higgs. I've been in ministry 17 years. And I work as a spiritual advisor at the Gladys House, volunteering my service to aid the young women in nurturing them in their spiritual growth.
Okay, great. And I understand that you two weren't really acquaintances until you relocated from the north to the south, and that's when you came together. But we're going to talk about all of that. But Ms. Carrie, I want to make sure that we understand you clearly. So if you could mute your background and pull the phone very closely to you, I think then we can understand you. So let's talk about you, Miss Carrie, first, and why the Gladys House. I know there's got to be some kind of story behind this. So can you kind of tell us what made you create or design or develop the Gladys House? Miss Carrie?
Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I was born the youngest of 10 children in a little small town called Bladenboro, North Carolina. I'm a baby boomer. And at the age of 9, our family relocated to Washington, D.C. But by the age of 10, both my parents had died. And subsequently, I went to live with my sister Gladys, for whom Gladys House is named, and her husband, and their 2 children. He finished raising me and another minor sister who is on the board of Gladys House. And so I lived in Washington, D.C., and after graduating from high school, Anacostia High School, for those of you who are familiar with that area, I went to work for the federal government, and in 2004, I retired from the Postal Service after 35 years of government service. Then I relocated to Charlotte, where I now live along with 4 of my 5 living siblings. And when I retired, and before I retired, I asked God to give me something to do in full-time ministry when I retired that I wouldn't get tired of and that I wouldn't mind doing for free. And that's exactly what he did in a glad time. And I ended up getting into providing transitional housing when in 2011, I got acquainted with a transitional housing program ministry here in Charlotte that was working with women. And prior to that, I just had no idea the extent of the homeless problem in Charlotte or anywhere else for that matter, because fortunately, I always had a place to live. And that's just something I took for granted all my life. And when I found out that the plight of some of the women sleeping in their cars, living in their cars in the middle of the summer, and it's 100 degrees, and they don't even have air conditioning, or money to buy gas to put in the car so they can run the air conditioning, sleeping in the bus transportation center on benches and pushing their belongings around in a rolling suitcase. Nowhere to go during the day because the shelters would put them out during the day and they couldn't come back in until that evening, regardless of what the weather conditions were outside. Women with no form of transportation, no way to get to a job interview, even if they had it or managed to get one. So it was just all problems I was unacquainted with, and what led to me doing it was the transitional house is shut down after 3 months. And it really broke my heart. And because I was volunteering with them, and it broke my heart because it was just such a need. And so one day, as I was grieving over that, the Spirit of God spoke to my spirit and said, well, why don't you do it? And so after grappling with that for a while, I finally, in 2011, stepped up and began the process of setting up what would become Gladys House.
Wow. I mean, just hearing the story kind of breaks my heart, too, because I know we have that going on here in the metropolitan area in D.C., homelessness, but your niche is the young women between the ages of 18 to 26 who have no home. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. That's the clientele, that's the group that we're focused on.
Wow. Okay, so you were up north and you were living this lifestyle and had this fabulous career and decided to retire and move back north. Back south. But let's turn our attention to Reverend Mary right now, because I want to find out how the two of you connected. So, Reverend Mary Higgs, I know that you were born in the South, but you also transitioned to the North. Can you give us your story?
That is correct, Tracy. In 1970, my husband and I transferred our belongings and ourselves to White Plains, New York. And we stayed there 44 years. But in 1985, the place that we were living, it was an apartment dwelling. The landowners told us that they wanted to remodel the edifice. So that meant we had to move out. And they told us we would be the first to go back in. At that point, we became homeless right there in Valhalla, New York.
Wow.
So the Lord provided a shelter for us, but my heart went out to all those people that didn't have any place to live. So with that being said, God gave me a passion to reach out to the homeless people, especially those young people that were in shelters. About 25 years ago, he laid it on my heart to adopt a cottage at a Wayward Boys facility. And in that facility, it was about 15 young men, and I was able to provide whatever they wanted for Christmas. That passion stayed with me. So we relocated from New York in 2013, and I joined the church where Sister Carrie is a member there. So one Sunday we were doing meet and greet, and she asked me, because I am a minister, if I would come over to the Gladys house and minister to the young ladies by way of spiritual enrichment. And naturally, I agreed right away, because in 1985, I was already prepared for this.
That's right.
But anyway, I've been going over to the Gladys house, mentoring with the young ladies. You see, the world of homelessness seems very far from ours, but in some ways, it's very near to ours. Because it could stem from the loss of a job or whatever the case may be. Tragedy strikes everywhere. So my first challenge was to understand who the homeless are, to educate myself about the homeless, to respect the homeless as individuals, and respond to them with kindness. I go over to the Gladys house. I have strategic plans that I minister to them with, and they are real receptive about it. I don't leave them alone because during the course of the week, I call them up. I stay in touch with them until I'm able to meet with them face to face again. So it's been a challenging, but it really has been good, because in every situation you have success stories and then you have not so success stories. But overall, they have really, really been encouraged.
Wonderful. Okay, so now I see the connection, and I understand why the passion behind Gladys House. Let's go into Gladys House and talk about some of your residents now. Where are you finding these women, or are they finding you?
Well, the women are finding me. And in the past, the majority of the women have come from the local Salvation Army shelter. And the facility here in Charlotte, it's always overcrowded. You have women sleeping on floors, and you have single women, then you have women with children, you have older women, you just have all age categories. And when I first opened Gladys House in 2013, the women could stay there for 6 months, and they would have to leave for a couple of days and then come back and re-enter the program again. Well, now they can only stay there 3 months. But anyway, so probably 50% of the women that came to Gladys House over the last 3 years came from there. Then I had 2 high school students that were referred to me by high school counselors. I've had 3 women who come by way of finding us on the internet, going to finding our website, just searching out transitional housing in the city. And I'm trying to think, one young woman came to us. She was a veteran, and she needed a place to stay for 3 months while her housing through her and the VA was finalized. So she came to live with us for 3 months. So you can see people, it comes from different places. But the one thing they all have in common is that they are all temporarily homeless and need a safe, clean place to live. And we provide that for them, and at no cost to them.
Okay, that sounds great. Let me ask you this. 3 months is not a lot of time. So what's actually done in that 3 month period to get them prepared for their next phase in life?
Well, that's not the case with Gladys House. That's the case with the shelter. At Gladys House, what do we say, Tracy? We are going through a process right now where we are revisioning the program, and we're tweaking some things. Now, up until now, the women have been able to stay at Gladys House for 2 years, up to 2 years, as long as they were pursuing their goals of employment or job training. And after getting a job, we allowed them a period to save up money so that they're able to go out and get their own place and buy the basic essentials they're going to need starting off. But what I found this past 3 years was that the majority of the women became very complacent. And they were looking at, okay, well, I have 2 years to be here. So they didn't have a sense of urgency and necessarily a serious state of mind about the program and what it is they were supposed to be doing. So what we, meaning myself and the other board members, we made a decision to reduce the amount of time to 1 year with the provision that, depending on the circumstances, that could be extended. So, and so there's not much we can do in 3 months. So it is a year that they can be with us, and in that time, usually only one person has come to us with a job. Now we've helped over 16 women in the past 3 years, and 4 out of that 25%, or 4 of the women have actually completed the program. They have left Gladys House with job training, and all of them had a job when they left, and a job that afforded them an opportunity to take care of themselves. One was working for I4. One was working for Xerox. One, I can't remember the company she's with, but another got a job with Allstate. So, and we work with them to help them find job leads. We've had people to come in to help them with resume preparation, interviewing skills, teaching them how to dress for an interview, how to dress for a job, work ethics. So we do what we can to prepare them to go out into the working world. And we work with programs such as the Goodwill Training Program. The Urban League has a program here, a job training program here. Program called Jacob's Ladder. There's also a program called the Charlotte Area Fund, where the women, they can go, they can learn computer skills, they can learn the Microsoft Office applications, and just whatever it is they need to help them to get ahead. And also with these programs, they give them a transportation stipend. So that means that they don't have to worry about where they're going to get money for bus transportation from.
Wow.
Because just like in Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, it's very expensive to use public transportation. And these young women don't have cars, and we don't have any means of transportation to transport them to and from their various appointments.
Wow, that's a lot. That is a lot. Reverend Higgs, what's your role? I know you're a spiritual advisor, but what does that mean? And when you walk into Gladys House, what do you do?
The first thing we do is meet and greet, and then we have prayer. And I have an outline of different topics that we talk about, and do workshops with them sometimes too, so that they can understand who they really are themselves. Okay, and I want them to help dispel the stereotypes about the reason they are in the Gladys House. Because homelessness comes from every situation in life it could, and every situation is unique. And we want to build them up in integrity. We build them up in character. And we let them know that you are unique right where you are, and not to compare themselves with anybody else.
That is true. That's
teach
true.
them different strategies from the Bible. We teach them real life strategies attached to the Bible as well. So,
okay, great.
Well, Tracy, let me add something to that. One of the things that has become painfully obvious to me, or I've become painfully aware of over the 3 years, is there's a consistency in the ladies in that they all are suffering from some degree of depression.
Mm-hmm.
And there is such a great need for counseling.
Yeah.
And Reverend Higgs does a wonderful job of counseling them, doing spiritual counseling with them. But it's been difficult for me. Well, I've just been very unsuccessful in getting social workers, those people who are trained counselors, to volunteer time with the ladies, or mentors to volunteer their time with them. And everybody's just so busy and over-obligated. And truly, I realize that has to be a calling, and especially when you're not getting paid for it. So that's something I would ask your audience, your listening audience, to please be in prayer for Gladys House, that God would send volunteers who have a calling, a passion, to be able to serve these young women. Because if you're not spiritually well, and you're not emotionally
That's right.
and mentally well, then you're going to
yes.
have a very difficult time living a stable life.
That is true.
So, yes. So we don't want to just give them shelter. That's our main objective. We want them off the street. We want them out of an environment that is going to be harmful to them, whether it's emotionally or physically.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, yeah.
So
we want to do.
I'm sorry. Oh, I just wanted to make sure that the audience heard your request that Gladys House needs those who will have the skill and the ability in life coaching or spiritual coaching, or even the traditional coach of a psychotherapist, a therapist, a counselor, etc. Give them a call, and we'll give you their information as soon as the interview is over. But I just wanted to make sure everyone out there heard that you have an opportunity to walk into a ministry and really minister and see lifestyle changes. I mean, I would be running to accept this offer. But let me ask you this, because we did see some pictures of some of the ladies and some of the programs that you were conducting. But in Charlotte, North Carolina, you both have been recognized and awarded and honored. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the recognitions you've received?
Yes, in 2015, actually starting in October 2014, I was honored by the local chapter of the NAACP for my work at Gladys House at their annual recognition banquet. And then in March of 2015, I was recognized by the National Council of Negro Women, the local chapter, and the local chapter of the National Association of University Women, both for the work I do with Gladys House. And there have been various local organizations, the United Missionary Baptist Association, recognized us last summer and gave Gladys House a financial donation. Again, the NAACP, National Council of Negro Women, then this past fall and paid the electric bill for that was passed in. So there have been many, there have been several organizations that have reached out to us who have said publicly, we see what you're doing and we appreciate you. And so that's been very encouraging for us.
Wow. Do either one of you have one quick story, success story that you can share with us before we wrap up your segment?
Yes, I have had a young lady. Her name was just, I'll just say her first name was Alexis, and she came into the program. A year and a half. She just left the program in December, but when she came in March of 2014, and she had no job. She had been in the shelter. And she had nowhere to go. Her sister had put her out of the apartment that she was sharing with her. And she came to Gladys' house, and she was looking for jobs, could not find a job. And so what I told her, I said, okay, you need to sign up for a job training program. She did. She signed up for the Urban League Job Training Program, which was a 10-week program. And I think there's a picture, one of the pictures that I provided for you of she's holding her certificate, and I'm standing there beside her. I went to her graduation, and I was just so proud of her. And then after that, she that led to a part-time job with Macy's during the Christmas season, 2014, and so that went on for a few months, and that job ended, and then she worked a job with the Red Cross, which was temporary, and then finally last summer she got a full-time job with DUI Corporation here in Charlotte, the customer service center. And in December of 2015, she was able to leave Gladys' house with a full-time job, paying decent pay, and is renting a house.
Wow.
Yes. And this is what Gladys' house is about. So she got spiritual counseling, her personal development, her spiritual personal development, as well as professional development. It all came together. Plus, she got some life skills while she was at Gladys' house. We did financial management with them. As I said, interviewing skills, couponing. They were required to do household chores daily. They had a chore list, and that was rotated so that they would get used to living in a clean house and how to maintain the house. So these are the things that we offer them at Gladys House.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know we have your information if there are those out there that would like to reach out to you. And I really want to have you back. I think what I'll do is just come down to Charlotte and videotape down there so that we can talk to some of the residents, the former as well as the existing one, because this sounds like a blessing to those that are young out there. And I know from research that when our young women leave the house at 18, 19 years old and they return home around 26 years old, they're bringing problems with them. So it's a great thing that Gladys House is out there to help that interim period and get them back on their good footing. So thank you, Reverend Mary Higgs, and thank you, Miss Carrie, also for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Tracy, for the
Thank you for having us.
Okay. And so everyone, you saw the information. You can connect with Gladys House through their website, gladyshouse.org. And you can also mail donations in. And Ms. Carrie, when I do bring you back, or maybe even sometime after this program, you can let me know how much it would cost to sponsor a young lady in Gladys House. And maybe we can get some monthly donations in consistently, or at least a one-time gift.
Wonderful. Is that an opportunity right now to share that?
Oh, sure. Go right ahead.
Sure. I just want the listeners to know that we exist solely off of the time donations of individuals and organizations. My church is a supporter of Gladys House, but the other income are from individuals such as yourself. And any amount is appreciated. We don't have any salaries. Our total operating expenses are $1,600 a month. So any amount that God puts on your heart to send us for a one-time donation or a monthly donation, we would appreciate it. And you can go to our website, www.gladyshouse.org, and use our PayPal account to donate, or you can mail the check or money orders to us. And our phone number is 704-777-1066. And again, I am Carrie Pegues. And thank you so much for listening to us today.
You are so welcome. And you are offered the opportunity to stay online for the second segment, because we're going to be talking about women and homelessness. And you can interact if you'd like, or you can mute your phone. So we do again thank you both for joining us on Mentor Me Memorable Moments.
Thank you so much for having us.
So let's go ahead and start the second segment. Now that's me, and we're going to talk about broke has nothing to do with money, but everything to do with a mindset, a behavior, and an opportunity. And I heard some of that coming out in Reverend Higgs and Miss Carrie's testimony in talking about Gladys House and the different type of women that are coming in and what actually turns them around. And so what I want to do is break that down for you just a little bit so that you'll have an understanding of why I say broke has nothing to do with money, but everything to do with your mindset, your ability to recognize opportunities and just turn things around for yourself. So let's go ahead and put up the slides, Mike, and we're going to go ahead and look at Rosie the Riveter. Now, we've all seen this before, and you look to the top left, you see that Norman Rockwell designed Rosie in this fashion in the 1941s to 1945s, and she represented millions of real women who were completing the void in factories and in munition plants and shipyards because of World War II. A lot of our men went to war voluntarily, and when they did that, that left a void in the economy, or the job market. And so women felt the need to step up and fill that void. And so Rosie was a representative of that as an icon in 1941 to 45. But then in the early 80s, we had a J. Howard Miller designed Rosie as we see the lower left. We can do it. And that is what's representing the women today. So she began an icon not only for those who were filling the void of the job market and during the World War II phases, but also she became the representative icon for those women who were representing civil rights, the women's civil rights era. So next slide, please. So the women back in the 40s took jobs that were female seamstress. They were also engineers, and they designed and built boats. Next slide, please. They were also in agriculture, munitions, where they were building and designing the artillery to be used during the war. And they were also the mechanics, too. And then when you look at the next slide, they took positions that designed and crafted and pulled together the pieces and the parts of the airlines, the aircrafts, the cockpits, the engines, and the portals. And the right picture, the right frame, is a woman and a man who are joined together while they're building an airline portal. So I want you to ask yourself this question. During this period of time, were women being paid a fair salary? Particularly the woman who's standing right there designing and screwing together those nuts and bolts with that man. Is he being paid more than her, or are they being paid the same salary? So next slide, please. So we'll look at more than 46 million Americans lived in poverty last year. That's 2015. The high rates of poverty we've seen in the U.S. in recent years are due to a large part of severe recessions that lasted from December 2027 to June 2009. And unemployment is a key derivative of the the poverty rate among the African Americans, and to include the men and the women. In shorter version, to include the men and the women. So despite some of the improvements in employment in 2014, the overall poverty rate was unchanged from 2013. So let's stop and talk about this for a minute, because we've been hearing a lot of things in the news that our economy is getting better, things are growing, we can spend a little bit more money, although we're being careful. You know, there's a freedom with the release of funds and coins and bills and paper, or however you want to phrase it. We got money and we are spending it. But this just told us that the rate of poverty hasn't changed since 2013. So who's telling the truth? I mean, when we really look out there, is the market truly moving, or is it just a facade? So let's put up the next slide. Let's look at poverty rates for women that are unchanged. Now, I got this information from National Women's Law Center. They detailed gender analysis of U.S. Census poverty, income, and the health insurance data released on September 16, 2015, and found that women's poverty rates were once again substantially above the poverty rates for men, and that the wage gap stayed statistically unchanged from 2013, with women working full-time, year-round, paid only 79 cents for every dollar paid to their male counterpart. We are still fighting for that 100% dollar rate. We're in the marketplace, we're doing the same things, and I hate to say it, but sometimes even better than the men. How many times have we had to train our bosses, okay, and only to not get paid the money of the boss? And why is it that we're still fighting the glass ceiling, trying to break that glass ceiling? Now, I will honestly say that in the federal government, everything is equal. You come in, if you are interviewing and hiring for the same job as a male is, then you're both going to get pretty much the same pay, because everything is according to your series, your grade, your step. So people are pretty much well balanced and equal there. But I would say maybe question the merit pays. Are you getting the same amount as the men are, or not, or if more? Are your annual reviews better than them, that would give you that opportunity to make more money or get better benefits? You know, that's where the inequality comes in. So let's look at the next slide. So when we are also saying that the threshold for poverty is not adjusted, the official poverty thresholds, which were established in the 1960s, are adjusted for inflation annually, but they have not been adjusted over the past 50 years to reflect the changes in consumption patterns, demographics, and overall living standards. So what this is telling us is that, moreover, the same poverty thresholds apply to every family of any given size across this nation. They do not vary based on the cost of living in different areas, and they may not vary based on ethnic groups and backgrounds. Next slide, please. So the state average for women in poverty, when we're looking at the District of Columbia, 17.6% of women in the District of Columbia live in poverty. And on an average, women in the District of Columbia make 90 cents for every dollar paid to men. That's because we have the United States governments right here. And so those demand that we be paid, if not equal, then very close to it. But our guests were from North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina. And when we're looking at North Carolina, it says that 17% of the women in North Carolina live in poverty. On an average, women in North Carolina make 85 cents for every dollar paid to men. And the national average for all of this is 79 cents. But 17.2% of women in North Carolina are uninsured, and that sure does acknowledge what our guests were talking about. And when we look at the District of Columbia, we have 4.9% of women in District of Columbia as being uninsured. And that again, when we're looking at women being paid 90 cents on the dollar, yeah, the uninsured rate would be low. The national average for poverty is 14%. The national average for uninsured women is 13%. That's quite a bit. So let's turn to the next slide. Did you have a comment, Reverend Higgs? Okay, so let's...
No, I didn't have one. I'm on mute.
Okay, so let's look at the causes of poverty. And our guests mentioned some things in their opening when they were describing their passion behind homelessness, that women, regardless of what age, are thrown out of the house for whatever reason, and they are sleeping in their cars, or they're sleeping on the floors, or they're sleeping in Salvation Army centers, and they're just sleeping wherever they can lay their head and rest for nice, peaceably. But here are some of the things that I have recognized as causes of poverty. When we look at divorce, women, yes, initiate the divorces twice as often as men, and 65% of divorced mothers receive no child support. More than likely, they're paying daycare. When we look at the illnesses, diseases of poverty are often comorbid or ubiquitous with malnutrition, inadequate sanitation, contaminated water, so they're getting sick and they need medical care. The poor decisions that they make, the mindset, why did I get into this situation? Why did I say yes to that? That causes poverty. Legal issues. 90% of divorced mothers have custody of their children, even if they did not receive that custody award in court. So imagine that. Now the man has custody, the husband has custody, the boyfriend has custody of the children. And at some point in time, he decides he doesn't want to be bothered with them anymore. So he gives them back to the mother. And she doesn't have the physical custody that's awarded in the courts, but she's still responsible for the child. So she's giving the child daycare. She's giving the child food and clothing and housing as best as she can, but she's not getting any support from the man because he has the physical custody. But he just turned the child back over to the parent. But when we're also looking at family concerns, divorced women have most of the child rearing responsibilities. That makes you tired. And the numbers are increasing by 75% because there is a long arm of the Lord, a uniform code of the law that says that you may have conceived that child and in the state of Maryland and gone to court and had the award by the judge that child support is going to be paid by him to you or from her to him, however that award is given. You're getting tired of paying the child support, so you decide you want to pick up and move to North Carolina. Well, it doesn't work that way because you can't hide. There are agreements between the states across the state lines, and once your information is entered into whatever beast or computer system there is, it's going to trigger that back in that state that gave that mother or that father custody and child support, and you're going to be triggered. You're going to be found, and you're going to be made to pay. So don't run, don't hide. We're going to find you. We're just going to find you. But let's go back to the slide, and we look at the single parenting and the pregnancy concerns. That common support up to 4 children on an average after-tax annual incomes and abandonment during pregnancy and after pregnancy are big significant causes of poverty as well. And debt, believing that you'll never get out of this debt. But you need this debt. You need the fundings that this debt provides to you in order to survive. So you'll go out there and get those payday loans with those significant interest rates just because you need that money at that time. And then when the money runs out, you're constantly digging your hole deeper and deeper. What else do you have to give? I don't want you out there tricking. I don't want you selling your children either. Better days are coming. I'm going to talk to you about that. And then the last thing is income, being paid income less than a man. And I think we talked about that. So who's at risk for poverty on the next slide? The Census Bureau says that single mothers, women of color, and elderly women who are living alone are at risk for poverty. And 1 in 7 women, or 18 million women, live in poverty in the United States today. And I believe I saw a statistic that said there are 37 million that are recognized as in poverty. We are almost, if not over 50% of that number in poverty. So how do you escape this poverty? You got to change your mindset. You got to modify your behavior, and you got to recognize opportunity. When opportunity knocks, you have got to open that door and accept it in. So let's look at the next slide. We're looking at traditional female jobs. And we see the teacher, we see the nurse, we see the seamstress, we see the secretary, the homemaker, and maybe the cleaning business. And so that's all traditional. That was back there in the 1940s when Rosie took her stand. And that's up in the 80s as well too. And now, you know, some women are turning some of those things into profitable businesses, like the cleaning. I mean, I would love to have somebody come in my house clean it. I can do other things, you know, I'm going to be thinking about that. But, you know, you've probably got a thought out there to start your own cleaning business too, or to go into the public system and teach. Those are the traditional jobs. Those are the jobs that aren't going to pay you very much unless you are heading that as a business owner. But let's take a look at the next slide. When we're looking at traditional jobs continued, we have now stepped into the STEM environment, the science, technology, engineering, and math, where those jobs are plentiful. They are crying out for females to step into those roles. I have been in STEM and technology for over almost 40 years. I started when I was in my teens and got a job with the local telephone company as a repair clerk, and I've been in that ever since. So I'd like to laugh and say that, you know, I was there when they took away the typewriter and put the PC down and asked the question, well, where does the paper go? But STEM is a great place for women to be. And these are the jobs that we want you to look at, because we're dying in this environment and we need to progress more. It's not difficult. I promise you, it is not difficult, and you can prevail in this. If you look at the next slide, this gives you an idea of the top 30 high growth occupations that are coming up between 2012 and 2022. Mike, do we have that slide? And in that slide, it tells you, if you're interested in a particular field, where you will rate in that field. How much are you expected to make in an average wage salary? So we're looking at the top of it, the food preparation and service workers, the child care workers, the maids and the housekeepers, the personal aides. Those are going to be very low wages, cutting off at about $10 an hour, maybe 12, 15 hopeful. But look at the bottom, the management analysis, the software developers and applications, the general and operations managers. These are heavily dominated fields by men. These are the STEM areas as well. We need to push into these areas as females and not dominate, but at least stand your ground, put your stake in the ground, you know, go out there and get that salary because you're worth it. You've got a mind that you can use in these field areas that will be remarkable. That's why we're saying that we need a woman in the White House this time. You know, we need to clean house and put structure in order, because we can do it. We can multitask far better than men. Next slide, please. So, am I broke? Well, in order to get out of that mentality, this is the question that you have to ask. If you think you are broke, then how did you get there? How did I get into this debt? Was it pregnancy? Whether healthy or unhealthy, the medical bills put you in this debt. Was it housing from a cruel landlord? They wanted their money up front. They wouldn't fix the things that were wrong, so you stopped paying, or they decided they wanted to sell the place right up under you. You know, was it that landlord? What about it was a domestic or a sexual abuse relationship that you were in and you had to flee for your life, or you just got thrown out, you know? So these are some of the things that you want to look at. How did I get into that debt? And you also want to ask, am I spending my money correctly? biggest question is, do you understand money management? If you don't understand money management and your debt plans and your spending plans, then you're just going to waste your money. So get connected with somebody that can give you this training. It doesn't matter if you have to pay it or if you have to get it for free or if you have to go to the local library and check out the books. Understand money management so that you can control your money and make decisions. Next slide, please. You've got to change your mindset. Bad debt creates a mental barrier to wealth. What does that mean? That means I'm not going to open up an account, a banking account, because I think that once the IRS or my creditors know that I have money saved, they're going to come and snatch it from me. That's a sick mentality. So you want to get out of that so that you can get out of being broke and open up these bank accounts. Apply for credit so that you can see where you stand against the rest of the people. Are you strong? Are you worthy? Do you have integrity? This is where it defines who you are. So you're in debt. Okay. Pay your bills, get a little bit of credit to help you get started or to clean your slate. And you also want to go and get your job that's paying you a little bit more than minimum wage. I have met so many people in doing taxes that say, oh no, I don't want to make any more than this because I know that if I make this, I'm going to get this back in my IRS refund. Come on, let's not play these games. Go and be the greatest and the best that you can be. Go and get that job that's going to pay you more, because I guarantee you more benefits will come when that happens. And you want to invest in your education, both personal and professional. So stop spending every earned dollar that you get and save and invest in yourself. Modify your behavior by learning how to save money. Benjamin Franklin's mentee, Will Rogers, said that he explained consumerism with too many people spend money they earn to buy things they don't want to impress people that they don't like. Is that you? Because, see, you can buy a pair of white socks and they don't have to be Gucci and they don't have to be Ralph Lauren. You can go to the dollar store and truthfully get a dollar pair of socks that are just as good and that will last just as long. So who are you trying to impress? You need to save your money. Next slide, please. Recognize opportunity. You hear that? That's opportunity knocking. Okay, open that door. Open that door. Open that door and let opportunity come in. So with that, you want to obtain a degree in a field or a study through your company tuition plan. I got my undergrad degree paid for by my company. That telecommunication company I worked for paid the whole thing because I was in line with what they wanted me to do. And technology was the big thing back then. So you can look at grants and scholarships and funding. I've had someone on this program that talked just about that. There are a lot of things you can do in that area. And just one more thing, because we need to wrap this up. I'm going to be live tonight because I'm going to talk a little bit more about this. The next slide, please. And so you can contact me tonight on conference call 1-712-775-7031. The access code is 745696. I want to talk to you. So this was the financial health segment. I'm going to be back next week with the physical health. That's Coach D. So between now and then, I want you to be safe, be smart, be healthy. Bye-bye.